First of all, I'm gonna do this start it facing you guys, and then I'm gonna have to turn it around because of the spacing involved. But one of the first things I'm gonna tell you about the baskets is you never pick the basket up by the handle. Regardless of what type of basket it is, you're always gonna pick it up at the base. And that is because it is heavy and it has water inside of it, and the handles, like many times, are not on there very firmly, and they will come off and you will break a basket. I went ahead and, because of time constraints, went ahead and already put the Oasis foam inside the cup here. I'll kind of pop it up here so you can see that it actually does come out. And if you can see the line here, I left a spot here at the bottom with water in it so that it can continue to hydrate the foam. And I put the water in, and then I put the Oasis in it. And then you put the Oasis in, fit it to the container, and then you want to go a little bit higher than the container, than the actual water receptacle area, so that you have a base that you can work with. Otherwise, you don't have enough area to work in. The other thing to tell you is that with Oasis foam, you have to make sure that you only insert your flowers once, your stems once, because if you insert them more than once, you have the ability to be able to break that foam down, and it's not going to hold your flowers, the stems that you want. The other thing that you want to do when you are making baskets and you're working in the foam is that you use some type of an object that's round to put your hole into the foam so that you don't plug your stems with Oasis foam, because it will plug them up and they will not continue to drink water. So we're going to start first with, and I'm going to use carnations today. They work well. They work a good substitute for things for the dahlias. And you're going to want to put your stem is going to go in to the center of the basket in the back here. So I'm going to use a knitting needle, an aluminum knitting needle. I'm going to put my hole in here. And a guess about where my stem is going to end up.
You cut that at a 45?
Cut it at a 45. 45 angle on any stem allows it to drink more water, more fluid. So we're going to put this in. This is going to be your height for the basket. Put the stem on that one. The next ones are going to go into the sides here like this as your, on the lack of words here. What was that? Yes, your contour, thank you.
Are the stems going
Go ahead.
into the water or just into the Oasis?
They're going into the Oasis because the Oasis is sitting down in the foam. Or is sitting down in the water. And the Oasis, as long as there's water available to it, it will continue to drink. The other thing to remember about when you're working with flowers is that you don't, when you're doing a basket, you don't ever want your flowers to touch each other as far as spacing between them.
So is your first flower that you put in the center usually about 2 inches above the handle? Is that what the rule of thumb is?
It's actually about 3.5.
Okay.
But it's going to depend on the size of your bloom. I'm basing this off of what the size of these blooms are. And you just want to make sure that your flowers are not doing this.
Okay.
You're not using the handle of the basket to support your stems. it takes a long time to be able to figure out exactly what your placement is going to be on your flowers. This one is not cooperating. Now my next ones are gonna go out, let this turn around here. My next ones are gonna go off out to the side here, much shorter. And as you can see, looking at it from this standpoint, you're starting to see the contour of the basket starting to come together. And as you see, what I'm doing is where the nodes are here, where the foliage has been on here, when you're doing dahlias, any type of flower, you can take that and peel it down so that you don't have a big bump sitting there. So when you insert it, you don't have a big hole that you're putting into your container, into your foam. Now, what I've done here now is you try to avoid putting a straight line down the center here, but in order to fill the space between those to make a triangle, that's how I have done that, so that you actually have a stair step coming down. I'm trying to get this to place here and it doesn't want to go in the hole. So what I'm going to do is plug the hole with something else and start over here.
So you're plugging it with the leftover stem?
Yep. And then you continue to fill the basket as you work down. So we're gonna put this in here so that we can get our spacing, so that we have it, so that it looks appropriate. I'm running into another stem that's already in here, so. Another piece of stuff to go in the bottom there. These are all tricks of the trade. I always tell people, if you have a chance, sometimes at your local community colleges, they actually have classes that you can take on floral arranging. And if you have a chance to be able to take part in one of those, please do so. You'll learn a whole lot about baskets. So, this is what we have so far. I'm gonna go ahead and start putting the greens in it. And when you want your green material to frame what you've already done. You do not want it overpowering it. I'm using leather fern that is I purchased it from the local florist, and whenever I use materials that I know for sure are a specific thing that I'm looking to use, I will order it special to have it be picked up when I need it. And you can learn to manipulate your filler so that it fills in. And I will, in case you're asking, yes, I'm going to use some of these small pieces. I'll throw them over here.
Do you mix any of the greenery at all, Cora? Or
Do I
just-
do what?
Do you mix any of the greenery at all, or just keep it all?
You can, but when you want to make sure that you're doing stuff that is very
Comparable.
complementary to whatever whatever you're doing. You want the blooms to stand out against whatever base of the filler or foliage that you're using.
Cora, there is a set number of flowers that you should have in a given basket?
We're gonna discuss
Currently,
that.
there is not. There's a minimum requirement, and the minimum requirement of blooms are going to be 7, what we're proposing for the PNDC.
And you have to be really gentle when you're putting the green in, because you want to make sure that you're not damaging your flowers that you already have in the your container.
Do you leave any of the leaves on the dahlias that you use in a basket?
Typically, if I'm going to do a basket, I am not going to leave leaves in it, on it. Leaves have a tendency to get down in here where your stems are and impact your ability to be able to put your other flowers and your greenery in. I call it greenery, we call it filler in the.
So it's okay not to use any leaves?
It's okay not to use any leaves. You're not, if you do put them in, you are gonna be judged on those. So now I'm just gonna finish off here, getting the oasis covered up so that you don't see it.
So now you're using the little pieces.
Now I'm using the little pieces, because that's what you can get down in here with. You wanna be, if you're, you wanna judge it, stand back 3 feet from it, and if you can see oasis in there, then you need to get it covered. The judging is done from the front, however, your show schedule's more than likely, and I think the new rules say that that the back has to be covered as well. You just don't have any flowers that are put in the back. And I'm gonna continue filling this in so that in the back here that you aren't gonna see the oasis inside here. And that's the hardest part, because when you're putting your foliage or your filler in after the fact here, and you always wanna do that, it needs to go in after you've got your blooms all placed. That's the hardest thing, is getting, when you're using things like this type of fern, of getting it covered so that from all directions you're not going to see that foam. It's kind of tedious, but it's one of those things that has to be done. And as you work closer to the bottom here, your pieces of fern keep getting smaller. So that you don't overpower what your other work is that you've already done. And the other thing to tell you is that when you're putting your greenery or your filler in here, You don't wanna put everything so that it's one plane. You wanna turn your foliage so that you get different angles, so that it looks appeasing to, it looks appealing, excuse me, can't talk today, appealing to the person who's looking at it. Uneven numbers in flower arranging, regardless of whether it's horticulture or arrangements, yes, you want to have uneven, it's more pleasing to the eye. Some of the common mistakes are is your foliage or your filler overpowering your blooms. You want your blooms to predominate. You don't want your blooms touching, as I already told you. And
Equal spacing.
the equal spacing, you try to make sure that your spacing between each of the blooms is, and this one is a little off, but it is equal. And that when you look at it from the side, that you'd have a nice rounded shape. And that when you're using baskets that have handles on them, which is a requirement, that your flowers are not touching as this one is, are not touching your handle, and that they are behind the handle. You have an even portion. If this basket was bigger, you actually could put in more blooms here and over here, but due to time constraints, I'm not gonna do that today.
And your flowers need to be about the same size.
Yes, you need to have uniformity in your blooms.